people who are less rich than you. And our job is to bring cases that we think are appropriate to bring, and sometimes you're going to lose them.
Okay, are there situations where you have called people in, people you've indicted, people you've convicted, who actually said, you know what, listen, I bought that stock because it turns out that the company's really undervalued. I've done a lot of work. I never had that call. You're making it all up. There are people who are going to listen to David Faber in the next panel, talk to people about ideas. Maybe one of those ideas is going to get a takeover, and they can say, you know what, I heard it at Delivering Alpha. You got it all wrong. I didn't have any inside information. These people ever do work and convince you?
You know, we bring, as I said, we investigate a lot of cases. We don't bring every case that we investigate. And it would be inappropriate, you know, when you begin to investigate a case, if you have your mind made up before you begin to investigate the case, then you're not doing your job. That's inappropriate, and that's...
Raj had a lot of good reasons why he did it. I mean, a lot of times I read it and said, well, that was a good call. Yeah, geez, that Sun Micro, that was really ripe. That was going to be a good quarter. You ever get blown away by the reasons?
That's one case I can talk about because it's concluded,
okay.
And it was upheld on appeal by the Second Circuit recently. The argument in that case, and in a lot of insider trading cases, it's not that people didn't do homework. People did homework, but they cheated too, right? You know, some of the best baseball players in history who have been shown to have used you know, body-altering steroids, no one says that they're not great athletes. No one says they didn't work hard. No one says they didn't go to the gym. No one says they didn't go to batting practice. They did all of those things, and then they cheated too. And you're not allowed to cheat. And no matter how good you are, if you're an A student, you're trying to become an A+ student, by cheating, by getting the test results in advance, that's a crime, and you're going to go to jail for that. That said, there are cases in which there is speculation and there is smoke around activity, and there seem to be peculiar and suspicious trades that happen at an odd time, and you ask yourself and you scratch your head, and the SEC looks at it, and maybe they'll refer it to us, and you take a look, and it turns out, you know what, it all checks out. Or it doesn't fully check out, but we don't have enough evidence to bring the case. That happens too. Well, but in the instance you mentioned, it wasn't square.
It wasn't square. You knew it from wiretaps, or just didn't sound right?
The sum of the evidence.
Okay. There have been some cases that I believe maybe not have been brought now. Do you think that Skilling, you just got a reduced sentence, do you think that the U.S. Attorney would bring the kind of cases they brought against Enron?
Yeah, I wasn't involved in that. I wasn't involved in that case. All I'll say, and just repeating myself from before, I think there is a need to bring cases against individuals in a serious way and against institutions also, because I think a lot of institutions, that's why we have our civil fraud practice that is new over the last 2 or 3 years, so that a record gets developed of malfeasance. It's not always going to be the case you can be a criminal case, and it's not always going to be the case that you can bring cases against individuals, but there's a totality of circumstances with respect to an institution that just flouts the law and does it repeatedly, and I think there is a need for people to be educated about that and for deterrence to happen, and deterrence can only happen, you know, across an industry among institutions that you know, are somewhat immune to enforcement actions because they make a lot of money and they're very large. And they have a lot of power. That's sometimes you need to do a little bit more.
All right, is there a tipping point where if I'm running a hedge fund, there's 6 guys you brought in, 6 guys you're going after, and at a certain point I just say, you know what, I got to go after Kramer. Let's use this, okay? Because if I brought in a bunch of guys, they're all guilty. He says he didn't know anything about it. Does it matter whether I knew? I mean, maybe I'm running an enterprise that shouldn't be run.
Didn't you already ask me this question?
Yes, but I'm going to continue to try because it's too big an elephant.
Ask me on Snapchat later.
All right, okay. Obviously, I'm not going to do well on that line of question. But I think if I didn't do it, what's the point? Got to try. Okay, you've been at this for a little while now. Let's talk about another question you want to answer. Okay? Is it time to think about higher office in which you want to be? Do you want to be?
I usually ask the question, so it's.
Well, I'm going to give you a shot. I'll give you some time. What? So do you want to be? Would you rather be the U.S. Attorney General, head of the Justice Department? Or you'd rather be the governor of New York? Which one?
I like the job. I like the job I have.
Oh yeah, but after you've done that one, which one would be a better job for you?
But I can do this, I think, for a while. I think it's going okay. Like,
well,
you know something I don't know? Am I getting fired?
No. I just think you stick around, and then maybe some openings occur, and it might be a good thing to throw your hat in the ring.
I'm doing this job. This is the job I like.
You're just happy with the job right now, and
yes.
We're not thinking bigger. We're not thinking about something else. This is perfect.
It's pretty
for
big.
you.
The job is pretty big, I think.
No, the job is huge, particularly for the people in this room. Now, are there some people in this room that you've brought in?
Yeah, that guy in the
I feel bad for that guy. Can we get the camera on that guy? No, I'm saying there's some big high-profile cases right now that you're working on. They're going to knock our socks off.
I mean, I don't know what it means to knock your socks off. Our effort and our intent and what we do is not to knock anyone's socks off. It's to figure out where there's bad conduct going on and to prosecute it. And, you know, you do a lot of talking about high-profile cases, a lot of financial press, and that's why I'm here, and there's a 24-hour network that's devoted to this. We do a lot of stuff that nobody hears about, nobody reads about, that are not covered on cable networks, that don't have to do with financial fraud, but is about public safety and about keeping New York safe and about keeping streets safe and making sure that kids aren't getting shot on their way to school and making sure that people aren't you know, voting for corrupt politicians. There's a lot of stuff that we do, you know, most of which is not high profile. Every once in a while we have a high profile case, largely because the press makes it high profile. Every once in a while people say, well, why are you obsessed with so-and-so? Why are you obsessed with insider trading? At any given time, and I've said this before, I got a handful of guys, men and women, who are working on insider trading cases. I have 230 assistant U.S. attorneys in my office. Like, there's 6 or 7 people who are working on these things, and I got 223 who are doing other amazing, great work to keep New York safe and keep people's money safe, and that doesn't get heralded very much.
Well, in this particular audience, obviously, we're more worried about, people here are worried about who you're after next. Maybe that's the parlor game you don't want. You talk about lower profile cases. Sarbanes-Oxley passed this. It was a great opportunity to go after CEOs who signed documents where they didn't necessarily know that there was wrongdoing, but you had the right to go after them. What happened to that? Why don't people go after people using Sarbanes-Oxley?
Again, you know, I can't opine on why a particular statute is not used more than people might have expected to be used, but the problems of proof and the problems of proving intent are, you know, exist throughout the criminal justice system, and it's not always easy to bring particular kinds of cases, even though lawmakers may think they have passed, you know, an easy, bright line law. And, you know, some things are better left to regulators because they don't have to prove criminal intent and they don't have to prove guilt beyond a reasonable doubt to a unanimous jury. And that's all I'll say about that. But, you know, everyone should appreciate that we're always looking at every tool we have, and we're looking at all the statute of limitations issues, and we're looking at you know, aggressive techniques. And I don't think anybody can say that the office that I lead and that I inherited has been anything less than aggressive, at least more aggressive than anyone else.
I'm going to give you the last word to this crowd, something that they should know about your office, something that they're doing wrong, that you're not happy with.
You know, do we have another 20 minutes? No, look, most people are trying to do a good job. Most people are ethical and honest and honorable and want to do a good job. And the problem is that there are not enough people who realize that part of their job is to disable the bad guys. And all these frauds that we prosecute, and I say this all the time, they happen in large part because you got, you know, the bad guys who are doing them, but you also have good guys who didn't say anything about them. And, you know, because whistleblowers are not paid attention to, and because there's not a climate where people think they can elevate it, and it's all lip service, and people don't put their money where their mouths are. And that's a big problem. All these frauds, when you're talking about the fraud at Galleon or at Bernie Madoff's firm or other places, people knew about it in advance and they didn't do anything, and a lot of pain would have been avoided, and a lot of people would have been suffering less if good people like you guys in this room, not all of you, most of you, did something about it earlier on. And that's the big lesson that you learn in doing this job after 4 years.
Thank you, Preet Bharara.
Thank you.